Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. The Wolf She Never Knew. Episode 4. Chapter 25. Dexter POV. I drove as Avalynn slept soundly next to me. I did feel slightly guilty that I slipped something into her drink, but I had to do it. What other choice would I have? Not do it, and I have to physically harm her and give her another shot. This was the absolute easiest way. I knew of that wouldn't kill her. I knew that she was getting stronger and her Leekan was probably coming back to her by now. Although I never saw her zone out and speak to her Leekan. I honestly contemplated on giving her a small dose of the herbs that suppressed her Leekan. My hands tightened on the steering wheel as we entered another town. We were still several hours out and I was racking my brain to think of an excuse to give to her when she wakes up. Under attack, rival pack of Rouge Lycans maybe? Possibly that idea could work, and knowing she was fragile I had to protect her. I would want to keep her at my side for protection. Yes, that would work. I glanced over at her. She was extremely beautiful, more than when I saw her a few years ago. My stupid friend killed her adoptive mother, and he paid for it with his own life. I ripped his throat out as soon as we left their territory and threw him into the river. I only wanted her, since she was promised to me. When her father told my father that they couldn't promise her to me, I made it my mission to take her myself. No one backs out of a promise. My stupid father acted as if it was no big deal. It was, well, to me it was anyway. It was like breaking our trust. I was 16 at the time and she was still small, and I went on a rampage with my most trusted people through her hometown. I do regret that action. My father told me that no one does arranged mates anymore. That all of the kingdoms were on good terms and we could cross into the other's territory, with permission naturally. They would travel with you and host welcoming parties along the way. It was an absolutely ridiculous notion and I didn't want any part of it. I looked over at Avalynn again as she moved in her seat. I knew she would be waking soon and I sighed. I felt an annoying tingle of the mind link and opened it. "What is it?" I asked. "Well, sir, no one has showed up yet. Garrett told me. They probably have that witch helping hide their scent. Stay focused and keep your eyes open. We are about an hour or so out. Are the others meeting me here still?" "Yes, Your Highness. They are probably about a half hour behind you." "Good, I am going to need some men here for protection." "Good job getting it together, Garrett. You are a great number 2. I cut the link before he could respond. Garrett was simple and easy to command. If I told him to jump on his right foot, he would do it for me. I could smell his fear that rolled off of him when I was close to him. He was a great warrior though, one of the top ones out of his class. He was quick, strong, and smart. He just didn't trust me, which is smart. I don't have the best track record, and if it's between them and me, well, I am choosing myself. I stopped the car outside of the last human town for gas. I got out and took my time. I went inside and paid for the fuel and a new water for Ava. I then went back to pumping gas. I sat back down in the SUV and after getting her water level back to where the other one was, Avalynn shot up in her seat with a gasp of air being sucked in her lungs. I looked at her and put on my best face I could. "Are you okay?" I asked in a worried tone. "What did you do?" she screamed. I didn't do anything, you fainted. I pointed out the window. See, we are still at the gas station. I made sure to always stop at the same gas stations in case she woke up. I got lucky that it happened to be now. She looked out the window confused and back at me. The water, well, it tasted funny, I remember that much. She frowned as she looked to her water. This water? Here, let me see it. I picked it up and took a sip of it and showed that nothing was wrong with it. Oh. Well. I don't know what happened then. She looked down as her fingers seemed more interesting. It may just be a side effect of where you hit your head. I offered. She didn't say anything and I knew that she was really confused. The trick worked and I couldn't believe it. Thank goddess it was still daylight. I drove away from the gas station and I looked over to her. She seemed conflicted. I have reports of suspicious activity in one of our other homes about 2 hours out. Want to join me? I asked. Her head shot up to mine and nodded yes, please. That would be nice. I am having a few men meet us there just in case it's dangerous. Rouge lichens terrorizing the outer territory of a wolf pack half-moon. I smiled and she went back to looking at her hands. Avalynn POV. It was weird, I felt like I had been asleep for hours but it appears that wasn't the case at all. He even took a drink of the water and nothing happened. We were at the same gas station still and my water was cold. He looked like he was super worried too. Something seems off. I just know it. Charlotte expressed. I know but I don't even remember what time it was when we pulled in. It was daylight? Yes? Or was it dark? Charlotte, my memories feel jumbled up. I whined. I feel a little weaker than earlier. Something had to be in that water. Yet I thought so too, Charlotte, but you saw that he drank it too. I sighed and looked out the window again. I rode in silence trying to figure out what was happening. When Dexter turned on the radio it was low but enough to calm my nerves. I was worried that something had happened and I was out for hours. I couldn't get that terrible feeling out of my head. I felt like he drugged me again. Now I feel like I'm going crazy. When could he have drugged that water anyway? I literally just opened it at the gas station back there as he was fueling up the SUV. I frowned and replayed everything back as I could. I held onto the water the entire time and he wasn't anywhere near me. I only had 2 sips out of the bottle. I looked back down at it and lifted it. I could tell Dexter was watching me out of the corner of his eyes as I lifted it to my nose. I sniffed it suspiciously and didn't smell anything abnormal. I took a small sip and nothing was there. Weird. I thought to Charlotte and she only nodded. I sat it back down and shook my head in disbelief. I zoned out and recluded back into my own thoughts. That's when his thoughts passed through my own mind. I almost screamed at his voice in my head. Well, I dodged a bullet there. Good thing too. What does that mean? He's guilty. That's what. He done something to our water and made you think we're crazy. Charlotte was about ready to jump him when he stopped the car. She was ready to shift, even though she was still weak. I looked out and around our vehicle and saw the reason we stooped. I inhaled deeply to take in their scents. Easy, look, there are lichens and wolves mixed in together. A lot of them. What is going on here? I could tell Dexter knew them. he was communicating through a link. He drove and they followed. What is going on? I asked. It is our help or backup, I guess you could say. These lichens and wolves are the most ruthless in the Southern Territory. The leader is a good friend of mine who owes me a debt. He smiled at me. Oh. So whoever is threatening that smaller wolf pack is about to get it then? I frowned. He nodded his head. Yes, I guess you could say so. The wolves and lichens matched our speed and ran right alongside of us. Almost as if in a security detail for protection. How odd that this pack was mixed. Generally you don't see that happening. Lichens were too arrogant to tolerate a wolf. What probably happened was the alpha was mated to a lichen or vice versa and they blended together. That made me happy that, it seemed, they lived together in harmony. I watched this grey and black wolf run with them, their fur was beautifully mixed and swirled together. He had a heart shape on his back leg. When his head snapped to me it felt like I could sense the goodness in his soul. As if he could feel it too, he looked away but kept glancing in my direction from time to time. We stopped the car at a big gated entrance that had large walls surrounding the property line. It was starting to get dark and I looked at Dexter as he was exiting the vehicle. He bent down and told me to just sit here. I sighed, annoyed because I wanted to get out and help. That's when I heard shouting and growling from the pack that was around the vehicle. I frantically looked around and I felt Charlotte push forward. She was looking through my eyes, curious and ready to fight. Everest POV. I walked around the front porch, pacing back and forth. One of our scouts, a strong wolf named Jackson from one of the stronger wolf packs, infiltrated the group of lichens and rouge wolves. He was relaying that they entered the human town that we passed through hours ago. They were maybe 2 hours out at the most. He was easy to spot in a crowd with his unique black and grey fur that swirled together almost perfectly. He had a heart marking on his back leg and it made him stand out and easy to spot when shit hits the fan. I kept the link open with him, as he tried to stay close to her. She looks fine and he can feel her lichen is strong. This made me happy, she hasn't been harmed physically, that he can tell. Mentally is another story, I won't know until we were back together. I swore to myself that I would make sure she was safe and better protected for the rest of her life. I kicked myself every moment I spent without her, regretting that I wasn't with her. I know that I had other duties to tend to and meetings I had that day. Jameson reminded me constantly that I can't be everywhere and that no matter what, we aren't a match for a bullet to the brain. Even if this were true, I still blamed myself. I continued to pace back and forth when Jameson walked out onto the porch. You okay? His hands slipped into his pockets as he stood in front of the screen door. I'll be okay when I lay eyes on her and she is safe in my arms. I walked over to him and we walked out into the yard. How is Amber? She is with Miranda and Claire talking strategies on what is going on. He sat down on the steps. We are going to get our queen back, Everest, and that little piece of crap is going to get what he deserves when this is all said and done. I can still see that you're blaming yourself. It is written all over your face. He frowned over at me and shook his head. Yes, he will pay. I sat next to him. Does Amber still blame herself? I think she does. He sighed. I really wish she wouldn't. She nearly died herself trying to protect her. I looked out at the yard. It is very hard to not blame yourself when you look back and think of things you could have done better. I could have done better, Jameson. I could have done more. We knew she thought she saw someone and no one could catch a trail. We, my father and myself, marked it off as her seeing things. Being somewhere new, then we moved rooms. He was there the entire time, watching, waiting, planning. He had help from the inside. I am going to rip her head off. I growled and my fists slammed into the concrete. Probably a good thing the porch wasn't wood or else I would be giving them a new porch. Jameson's hand came and rested on my shoulder. You had plans for the following day to add more guards around her. He probably knew that and moved then. It is not your fault, Everest. We will see her soon, bud. He patted my back hard and I stood and inhaled deeply. I turned, walked down the stairs, turned and looked at my longtime best friend. Thanks for listening to me. Your talks always make me feel much better. Jackson came through our open link, Your Highness. We are moving now. On our way to your location. Estimated time is now hour and a half. I am currently running next to the vehicle. She is in the front and Dexter is driving. I think she senses me. She spotted me easily. Stay close to her. Let me know when you are 30 minutes out or if you all stop. I demanded. Yes, sir. And it was silence again in my mind for a moment as I thought of Avalynn and how I will see her soon. They are an hour and a half out, everyone. Get to your positions and be on the lookout. Remember to not harm Jackson, he is in the group with his eyes on Avalynn. I sent out a mind link. The mind link included Brent so he could tell his warriors. Amber, Claire, Miranda, and Cassie came out of the house. Miranda had tears threatening to spill over as she hugged and kissed on Cassie. I listened in on their goodbyes. Listen to her and be on your best behavior. I have to do some work, okay? Miranda told Cassie. She responded and smiled at her, okay. I behave. Then we get ice cream. She clapped her little hands. Yes, and then we can get us some delicious ice cream. She kissed her head. I looked over to Josh and Claire as they said their goodbyes to one another. Soon Claire and Cassie were off together into the forest, going the opposite direction of the home. We all stood there in silence watching them leave, and soon they were covered by the foliage and out of sight. Should I send anyone with them? Josh looked over to me and Jameson. Jameson shrugged his shoulders out of instinct. He wasn't comfortable answering that question. I knew what his answer would have been. The same as what opinion I am about to give him. If something happens to them, you'll never forgive yourself. Send one, or if you want, two, even with her. We can spare a couple. I told him honestly, and his eyes clouded as he was linking with someone, and when they cleared up he looked over at me. Thanks, Everest. You're right. I sent 2 of my warriors to trail her. They'll catch up with her, especially since she's having to carry Cassie. I'll see y'all. I need to chase Miranda down to tell her to. He was off, following in the direction she went. Miranda quickly went to work, immediately setting up another protection spell, hiding and masking our scents. We moved to our proper locations to wait for their arrival. I was high up in a large tree that was close to the house. I imagined this was an onlooker's tree where a warrior was on guard. You pulled open the leaves and could see right down the drive to the road. I sat and watched, waiting ever so patiently for her. I could see the entire grounds from up here. Soon Brent made his way up. "See anything yet?" he asked. "No, not yet. I am sure they're getting closer." "How is Miranda's spells coming along?" I looked over at him as he leaned against a huge branch. "She's done with the protection spell around the house. She's halfway through with the scent barrier along the outside of the gate. She's a strong one, for sure." He was watching her work. "Something strange about her though." "What do you mean?" I raised my brow. "I'm not sure. She keeps her own scent masked and hidden. It's strange." He shrugged his shoulders. "That's true. Smart on her part though. You never can tell who you can trust." He nodded as his response and looked around the grounds once more. "My men will back your men fully. I can never apologize enough for the actions of my brother. He took away your family." His face was hard and cold. I realized he was also struggling with loss too. "He took away yours too, Brent. He tried to take you as well. Some family can be lost causes and can't be helped." I sighed. Just then my mind link opened up and I heard Jackson cut through. "We are 20 minutes out, Your Highness. Get ready, we are coming in full speed. I believe all 200 of us." I relayed the message to Brent and we both linked our entire group of warriors. It surprised me that Dexter had that many wolves and lycans with him. Luckily for us we had about 67 more than he did. I ordered my men to pull back and away from the front post until after they all pass through and then come in from behind and the side, while Brent ordered his men to come head on and the other side. Our men together will be circle and trap his warriors. We watched the road intently and we could hear them before we saw them. The roar of the SUV coming down the road and the earth below seemed to shake with the stampede of wolf and lycan footsteps. When they were at the gates my men began to close in. Quietly creeping in around the wolves and lycan detail he was running. I was surprised to see Dexter get out of the car to open the gate. He didn't even trust his own men? Then I saw it, 2 Rouges were fighting amongst one another. "Go! They're distracted. Jackson, while Dexter isn't looking, get Avalynn out of there, now. I am on my way down." I leaped from the tree, shifting midway down and landed on top of the wall next to Dexter. His head shot up to see what the sound was and his eyes went wide and he instantly paled. I let out a deep and loud growl that seemed to vibrate the stone beneath me. "What? How?" Dexter shouted and began his shift, retreating back to the car, back towards Avalynn. It was just a few seconds and Jackson wasn't quick enough. Dexter POV, I should have known better than to trust in these stupid Rouges. They are always causing some sort of trouble. I could see them snapping at one another as we rode in. Who knows what it's about, honestly. When we parked the SUV at the gate I looked around for a moment. Everything seemed normal, nothing out of place. I opened my door and inhaled the air into my lungs. No other scents clung to the air that represented danger or threat. My brother nor that northern king Everest scent clung to the air. We were safe and could get set up as soon as these morons were taken care of properly. I heard the commotion of the men begin to get more rowdy and I stood up to look in the direction the growling was coming from. I glared and knew this needed to be handled now before we entered these gates. I would not have this kind of behavior inside these walls. I leaned down and looked at Avalynn, who had also heard the commotion. "Avalynn, "Baby girl, stay here for me? I need to straighten this out," I told her. She sighed and nodded her head. As I rounded the front of the SUV, an interesting wolf caught my eye. He seemed to be backing up to the SUV and placing himself between the commotion and Ava. I called over to him, "You there? The black and grey wolf with that interesting pattern." He looked over at me and bowed his head out of respect. "Stay with her, and if this gets heated, take her to safety." He bowed his head and moved to the door of the SUV as ordered. As I approached, I noticed that Ray had now shifted to their human self, and that by their scent it was two wolves arguing over something that happened in the past. Well, from what I overheard, unacceptable to be arguing when I needed them to work. "Hey!" I yelled at them. They stopped and looked at me as I walked over to them. "I don't know what old beef you two have between one another, but the shit ends here. If you can't be around one another, I'll pick one of you." "Pick one of us? For what?" one of them asked. "Do you really want to find out? Because if you do, I'll choose you." My Leekan pushed forward and they both stepped back. "Now shift back. You can't protect yourself in your human form," I commanded. As soon as the words left my mouth, a loud crashing sound came from above my head. I covered my head as I heard the wall cracking next to me. I thought it was going to collapse on top of me. I stood and looked up, and a Leekan I knew was standing behind me. "What? How?" I shouted and turned to run towards the car. She can't see him, I thought to myself. I shifted in mid-run into my Leekan. I heard Everest growling behind me. I looked back at him and then to my men who were standing there startled. "Attack him! Attack them!" I waved my hand around. As I approached the car, Avalynn was in mid-shift, her Leekan pushing through. I could see it now, her eyes, although the same color, brighter and now glowing. No, no, no. This was not in the plans. How did this freaking happen? The black and grey wolf stood by her side, growling and seething at me. What is going on? I felt panic rise inside me and I knew I needed to get to her. She was angry and her Leekan was huge. I approached her and she let out the loudest, most deadliest growl I had ever heard. I linked Robert, "Inject her now, we need to run." As if she heard me, her head whipped, looking around frantically, and when she saw him coming at her full speed, she lunged at him. It took him by surprise and he couldn't stop to defend himself fast enough. She went right for his throat and ripped it out quickly. Robert's body fell beside her, the needle landing on the ground. She turned her attention to me, then growling, "Knock her out, do what you must except killing her." My men complied and jumped her as I had commanded them. Now was the time and only chance I could get. This would give me the time I need to run. I knew a lost cause when I saw one. I needed to get out of here and back east to regroup and come up with a plan. Everest used that moment in time to jump me, sinking his claws into my side and his teeth into my shoulder. I howled in pain and dropped to my knees, reaching for him and pulling him with all my might. I shoved him off and he snapped back at me and my fist connected with his jaw. I watched as he staggered back and heard the men a few feet away struggling with Avalynn. The girl was stronger than I thought. I heard a painful cry come from her and Everett's head snapped to her and back at me. Just then I swore I saw my brother's Leekan slinging men left and right. Avalynn let out another howl, and my brother and some of his men were fighting to free her as I no longer saw her standing. She was still fighting though, tough woman. You better help her. I began to tell Everest, if not, she will die. I lied and smiled at him. He growled at me and rushed to her aid, and I took that opportunity to tuck tail and run off. I didn't plan to stop, but someone caught my eye. It was Miranda, in a trance of a spell or something. Perfect, I thought and smiled to myself. This traitor will pay the ultimate price. I snuck up and around her as she was chanting a spell. Completely distracted, I looked out at the men who seemed to be sluggish looking. She was doing something to them. I crept right up behind her, took my claws and slashed right through her side. She let out a scream of pain as blood trickled out of her. I snatched the necklace she wore that hid her scent and shoved her off the wall she stood on. I heard the cracking sound of bones breaking on contact from the fall. I opened the locket, ripped the photo and tossed it down to her lifeless body. I made the decision to leave her for dead. I held the necklace tightly between my teeth as I ran out of there as fast as I could. I never turned back as I headed back east. Soon the sounds of the battle faded behind me and I was home free. Avalynn POV. I shifted and I knew the unique wolf was there to help me. I read his mind. Everest was here. I frantically looked for him and I heard a loud crash. I saw his beacon and I began making my way to him only to be stopped. Someone was trying to drug me again. I looked around. Charlotte saw him and lunged at him. She opened up her mouth and ripped his throat out. After that we turned and made eye contact with Dexter's beacon, growling. Men started coming at us, from all around. Growling, slashing, biting, and trying to pull us down. We fought alongside the unique wolf. He had my back and I had his. I was taking the wolves out easily. My claws gutting them or ripping their throat out, but the other lichens slowly began knocking me down. One's claws dug into my side, another simultaneously into my calf, and I let out a howling cry of pain. Just then another's fist connected to my face, knocking me back into the metal frame of the SUV. My head was fuzzy feeling and swimming with pain. As one was closing in on me, I stuck my claws through their chest, ripping out whatever I could. Just then a large lichen I had never seen before crashed through the lichens and wolves around me. Then Everest was there. He ripped through Dexter's men as if they were nothing. Fighting was still going on around us when Everest let out a loud growling noise. Soon silence fell around us and he and I both had shifted back to our human forms. When did I shift back? Was I that caught up? Yes, it is over. Dexter has fled and we have won. The Rouges have surrendered. Charlotte told me. Oh. I feel so weak. I told her. I know that's why I had to shift us. We need to start healing. She drifted back into the back of our minds as I listened to Everest speak. My friends and strong warriors from all around, we have won today's battle. Dexter is gone and we must heal. We will go back home to our families for today. I want each of you to keep your eyes and ears open as I fear we haven't heard from the last of him just yet. He was loud, strong, and I was so proud. I smiled at him as I leaned against the SUV. I lost a lot of blood and it was still slowly oozing out of my body. I looked around at everyone. My brother Josh was here, Jameson and Amber were here too. We all looked like we had seen better days with deep cuts and bruises battering our bodies. Everest walked over to me and smiled down at me. He pulled me into his arms and I finally felt myself relaxing for the first time in a few weeks. His head dipped down and his mouth pressed into mine. I gladly welcomed his kiss as my lips pressed back into his, my arms pulling him closer. A man I hadn't met yet interrupted us, Everest growled, and it caused me to laugh. Avalynn, this is King Brent of the Southern Territory. Brent, this is my mate, Avalynn. Everest introduced us to one another. Oh, you're alive and okay? I exclaimed. Your brother told me you were dead. I am very sorry to hear about your father. I told him. He gave me a small half-smile. I am just glad you are okay. I am very sorry my brother has done this to you. Are you? He trailed off and inhaled the air deeply. His eyes flickered and I saw his lichen pushing through mate. He said as his head turned in another direction. Mate is hurt. He took off running and we followed him the best we could. Oh goddess, Miranda. She's your mate? The fates are weird. I heard Jameson say. Miranda. Miranda sweetie, it's okay, it is going to be okay. I am here now. Oh goddess help. Brent was in a full panic mode. When we stopped there was a woman on the ground covered in blood, Miranda. She had been slashed and it looked as if a few bones were broken too. Brent was freaking out. I walked over to him and put my hand on his shoulder. Take her and go to the hospital, now. He nodded as his eyes had tears in them. As he lifted her and she screamed out in pain. He shifted fully and took off through the mountains. Getting to a pack hospital would be far more quicker. Ready? Everest took my hand and I nodded to him. We have matters to take care of at home. As we were walking, Everest's phone rang. Hello Ted. What news are you bringing me today? Oh? Avalynn is safe and she's with me now. Yes, I will tell her you said hello. You found him? Good. Where? Ahem, the weasel. Okay, put him down in the cells. We are coming to take care of them both. Oh really? Her father demands her out? Too bad she committed treason. Who does he think he is? King's orders are she stays in the cells with no visitors. He hung up and sighed. What is going on back home? Everything okay? I looked at him and he slowly shook his head at me. Avalynn, I need to catch you up. Trust me I will, in a little big. For now though, I just want to enjoy this moment with you for now before we move on to the next disaster. He stopped walking and looked down at me. I have missed you terribly and I am so sorry you were not better protected. I underestimated Dexter and his abilities. I have failed you today and I don't know what I can do to ever prove myself worthy of you and your love. He sighed and his face was sad. I lifted my hands up and placed them on either side of his face. You had me protected. They killed people, Everest. What if it had been you? I wouldn't be able to see you here, now. Right in front of me. I wouldn't be able to do this to you. I stood on my toes and brought his face down to mine and gently pressed my lips against his. Our lips moving and working against one another. His hands wrapped around my waist and pulling me closer into him. My hands moved from his cheeks and into his hair. My arms tightened around him in an embrace before breaking the kiss. You couldn't have rescued me today if you were there then. Let's go home. He nodded and we continued to walk. We were going to take a plane back and he would fill me in on everything. First thing first, we had to make a few pit stops on the way. I have had my guard up and playing fake these last 2 weeks that I felt weird relaxing in the car. It was honestly so very exhausting to keep up the act. My eyes were constantly scanning out the windows as we drove. Even though I was with him, I was worried that something bad could still happen. We were on our way to a safe house a few towns over. When we arrived and I walked in, Claire was sitting on the floor with the cutest little girl. Claire. I was so excited to see her, it felt like it had been so long. In a way, I guess it was a long time since we had seen one another. I ran to her as she stood up and our bodies collided in a hug. And who is this beautiful little girl? Me? I'm Cassie. You're very pretty. She smiled up at me. Well, it is so nice to meet you. Thank you for the compliment. I squatted and gave her a hug too, her tiny arms wrapped around my neck loosely. I looked over at Everest and he said, "This is Miranda's niece. Where is she?" She looked around for her aunt and pouted her lips out when she didn't see her. She was so busy helping people that she got a boo-boo. I told her when no one else really knew what to say. Her mouth opened in a circle as she understood. Oh. She gonna be okay, she's tough. She walked off and sat on the ground and began to color again. We all sat at a table, myself, Everest, Josh, Claire, Jameson, and Amber, discussing our next move. We all for sure agreed on tightening security around me and every single entrance. Random warriors spread throughout the entire place. Every entrance needed 2 Leakin warriors to stand guard. Avalynn, I have to tell you a few other things as well. Everest looked over at me with an extremely serious look in his eyes. Okay, what is it? I glanced around the table and heads were down, looking at their hands or just the table we were all sitting around. It was as if they knew what he was going to tell me. I looked back at my mate as he seemed to struggle with what he was about to tell me. We have 2 people who have been recently moved to the cells at the palace. They were working closely with Dexter and his men. They aided him with some of the detailed information on the passageways used by the royal families and close friends of the royal family. They both are guilty of murdering the king, my father. He paused as his head dropped down and my hands went to my mouth in shock and disbelief. One of my hands went to his shoulder in comfort as tears welled up in my eyes. I didn't know his father very well, but he did welcome me and he made sure I was always comfortable. He helped me better understand my past and where I came from. Everest's hand rested on mine and I felt for the first time he had this moment to really and truly grieve for the loss of his father. His poor mother was still home alone with the 2 people who helped in this entire disaster. I wish I could hug her and be there for her as well. I knew what it was like and what it felt like to lose a father. I lost my father when I was still a child, but I lost my mother a few years ago. I still feel that pain in my heart and I knew that this was difficult for him. The pad of my thumb rubbed against his hand softly. He leaned into my arms as I held him tightly to me now. He took a few deep breaths and gathered himself after a few moments. Everyone else excused themselves from the table to go outside and give us privacy. I will have my revenge for him and for you. He sat back up and looked over at me, the 2 people who helped. We both knew who they were. He paused as he leaned back in his seat. Sarah got mixed in and went looking for him. She sought Dexter out, thinking if you were out of the picture and gone I would be her mate. So, she fed him information she overheard to him on where you would be, times you would be there. She told him how many guards you would have, so he knew how many it would have taken to get you. I listened to him and anger was running rampant through me. My fists balled up and I felt Charlotte's rage inside me. It was like a fire taking over me. That. I slammed my fist into the table hard, it cracking. He cleared his throat and I looked up at him as he started talking again. The other one, well, you have known him almost your entire life. It was Ryder who killed my father. It was Ryder who wanted to kill you also. He was going to wait until Dexter wasn't with you. He was going to attempt to kill you and bring your body to me, then try to kill me. How do you know all of this? I asked him. Miranda told me, the witch who was forced to help because Dexter's men had Cassie. He told me. Oh. Miranda was the witch and that was her niece. I overheard him talking to her on the phone when I faked being sick. He was trying to force her help and threatened Cassie. I looked over at him. He shook his head in disbelief. She told us the same. I need to confirm this with Brent too. Especially since she is his mate. We never would have known if it wasn't for Dexter ripping her necklace off that hid her scent. I hope she is okay and will make it through this. She didn't look so good when he left with her. I hope she is for Cassie's sake at least. Everest nodded his head in agreement. Soon the others coming in as he stood and walked off on the phone with Brent. He relayed the story and they chatted for a minute. Claire and Amber distracted me and told me to tell them everything that had happened while I was away. I told them everything that happened to me. How I faked being sick and pretended to collapse to stay in the location longer. It working but not the way I had intended and giving myself a severe concussion. Everest glanced at me and frowned and I only smiled back at him. Everest sat back down and looked at Cassie. Want to ride in an airplane? Yes. Please. We can go super high and fast and see clouds. Oh. Can we go on top of the clouds? She asked excitedly. Yes. Go get your stuff, sweetie. He told her, and when she was gone he sighed and looked at us. She will be staying with us for a while. It looks like Miranda will make it, but she's going to need some time to heal, recover, and have some physical therapy. Claire raised her hand halfway as she offered herself. And my brother, we will continue to take care of her, won't be an issue. Josh nodded his head in agreement. Yes, we will take care of her and protect her. Nothing will happen to her while she is in my protection. Especially now that I am Alpha. Josh said. What? Alpha? I looked at my brother. Yes, I am now the Alpha. He smiled at me. I walked over to him and gave him a tight squeeze. Congratulations, brother. What happened to Alpha Jackson? He stepped down and we had a quick ceremony to make it official. We haven't discussed it with the pack yet. He is getting everything ready for passing it over fully to me when we get back. He did not feel as if he could do right by the pack and King Everest when going after his only son and heir to the pack. He stepped down and awarded me the Alpha title. He was smiling proudly at me. I looked at Claire and smiled. You're going to be a wonderful Luna, Claire. Very well deserved. The pack is going to flourish with you two being the leaders. We all took turns taking showers and getting ready to leave. I let everyone go ahead of me. I may have dried blood on me from being slashed, but the wounds healed quickly. I sat on the porch with Everest as we waited our turn. I had my head resting on his shoulder as his right arm was wrapped around my waist, holding me to him. He rested his head on top of mine and we sat together in a comfortable silence. I was digesting every single thing that he told me. Everything that has happened and the lengths he has had to go to get to me. I continued to replay every single moment in my head since I was taken. The girl being shot, being taken, the explosion that apparently took out all forms of communications. It lasted just a few days, which was long enough to take me. Oh! I lifted my head off his shoulder. I forgot to tell you. I ripped someone's heart out of their back. Well, Charlotte did, I guess, even though I wasn't fully shifted. This was right after they first took me. I watched as his expression went from shock, then a frown, to a prideful smirk. Good job. How did you manage that? He was genuinely curious. I woke up, and faked being asleep. I felt Charlotte come to the surface when they were chatting and distracted, her raga came on rather quickly. I done what she said and let her take most of the control and boom, rammed our hand into the back of the seat and he was dead. I fought the other guy and hurt him pretty badly, but I was drugged again, so I don't really remember. Everest's brows raised and he nodded. Who taught you that? No one. I just did it. I shrugged my shoulders a bit. After that he suppressed my lichen with a herbal mixture and my entire body felt weak. Which is why I faked being ill. That was extremely smart on your end. How did you know? He asked me. Well, it tasted funny. So then I did an experiment and only ate pre-packaged food. Tossed other stuff away, that's when I started feeling stronger. Then I faked it. That was a brilliant plan. I am so proud of you for fighting against him. It may have went silently, but you still fought him. Not to mention you held your own out there. You had about 10 lichens and wolves trying to get to you. He pulled me into his lap. Seeing you, your strength, and your abilities to fight with minimal training was impressive. You're going to be a warrior when you finish your basic training. He kissed my forehead. I leaned down and captured his lips with mine for a kiss. His arms tightened around me, pulling me closer to him. My arms wrapped around him, hugging him close to me. Our mouths worked together and our tongues seemed to dance with one another in a teasing dance. The door opened and Amber stuck her head out. Shower is free, you too. And I smiled against his lips. I pulled back some and looked at him for a moment. Care to join me in a wonderful shower? He nodded his head and his hands went right to my bottom as he stood, lifting me. Gonna have to put me down. Cassie is in there and I don't want her to have questions. His chest vibrated in a low growl of annoyance and then he sighed. You're right. He didn't put me down, instead he moved me quickly into the bridal style. However, I am still going to carry you. This is just a more appropriate way to do it. One of my arms wrapped around his neck as he leaned his head to my ear. I felt my cheeks redden as he whispered to me. Just wait until the shower. I am going to wash every inch of you just to get you dirty again. He took my ear into his mouth, nibbling softly before pulling back. He then walked us inside and up to the bathroom, shutting and locking the door behind us. I sat on the counter in the bathroom as he kissed my lips softly. He pushed my hair back and away from my neck. Just the light brush of his fingers against my skin was enough to cause my body to shudder. His lips moved away from my mouth as he kissed down my neck and paused at where I will be wearing his mark soon. He lifted his head as he lifted my shirt up. I raised my arms up as the shirt came off and he dropped it to the floor. I pulled his shirt off and dropped it by his feet. He turned and started the shower. I watched as his muscles shifted and flexed with his movements. The shower was a large tiled shower with 2 shower heads. He had them both going and turned to look at me and had a mischievous grin on his face. He lifted his finger in a come here motion. His eyes following every movement I made. He moved us into the shower and backed me up into the shower wall. The coolness of the tile wall causing me to gasp. The warm water traveled over my body, washing away the dirt and dried blood. He pulled away and taking out the body wash and a cloth. He then began slowly washing my body. It was as if he was memorizing every curve, every piece of me, and burning it in his mind. He directed how he wanted me to stand and it helped him in washing away the yuck from battle. I enjoyed the way his hands felt on my body. After a while he set the cloth on the drying rack. He turned me around so my back was to him. "Lean your head forward some," he whispered into my ear. He adjusted to shower nozzle as the soap was rinsed away from my front as I leaned my head forward and his hands went to my neck. He massaged my neck, shoulders, and my upper back. His mouth would place small kisses along my shoulder or my neck from time to time, causing another moan to escape my mouth. He pulled the cloth back and began reworking the lather. He worked from the hairline of my neck all the way down to my ankles. He paused for a moment and when I looked down he smiled and encouraged me to turn around. He washed me entirely, making sure nothing was missed. When I was finally rinsed of the soap he kissed me. His arms went around me and he lifted me up. My legs wrapped around his waist and I felt the water shut off. I have never wanted anything more than to be one with him. I wanted to feel him, feel him. I wanted his hands and mouth all over me, everywhere all at once. It was as if his scent was an intoxicating drug and I craved nothing more than to be drowned in it. I could feel instantly more connected to him, than I ever could. It was as if we were now one. His mouth covering mine in a long kiss. He broke the kiss, pulling out from me and laid on his back next to me. He pulled me to him and held me close. I rested my head onto his chest and listened to his heart beating. It was a soothing melody that seemed to only play for me. It was relaxing and calming to listen to. "We both need another shower." After a while he spoke to me. I let out a small giggle. "I guess you're right. But I just want to lay in your arms longer. It's my heaven, my safe place." His arm tightened around me at hearing that and he began rubbing my back softly. I could feel his fingers drawing little designs and was the most relaxed I had been in a long time. When I let out a yawn I pushed up off of him. "Okay, we should shower." I walked away with an extra swing in my hips knowing he was watching. We both showered and got dressed and made our way downstairs. Claire and Amber were smiling wildly and that's when I realized that they probably heard it all and I felt my cheeks heating up in a blush. It is so very cute when you blush. Ah. Hey wait, are we mind linked? I asked and looked at him. He chuckled at that comment. I had never been able to mind link with anyone before. Yes, my love, we are. So cool. I felt excited and happy that I would now have a direct line to him. Hello? Avalynn. Wow, Everest, just wow. You made her speechless. Claire laughed. What? I looked at her confused and Everest laughed. Okay ladies, I am going to help load anything we need. Have fun. He winked at me as he left. Oh. He marked you and I saw you marked him too. The high-pitched excitement came from Amber. She wiggled her brows. How was it? Oh, stop it. I laughed it off. No girl, how was it? Tell us. Claire was now tag-teaming with Amber. I felt as if I had no choice but to tell them. Amazing, almost magical. I don't know, but I do know one thing, I can't wait to be with him again. It was so intense and passionate. I also just blurted out, mark me in the middle of it. I don't know where it came from. I thought back to it. Your leakin was finally ready. Amber said, and I made an O with my mouth. There were still so many things I didn't know about being a leakin. I am still learning new things every single day. It is weird. I know that we were supposed to wait until the ceremony, but I guess this was so we can be connected. I feel safer and my leakin feels safer too. It was more of a question than a statement. Yes, if he would have been able to link with you, who knows what have happened beforehand. Claire pointed out. True. I linked with Jameson, but he wasn't around Everest. Then I was knocked in the head and they beat me before I could tell him where we were. It all came on so very fast. Amber frowned as she looked down. I am very sorry I couldn't help you more. I leaned and put my hand on her shoulder. Amber, this is not your fault. If anyone's fault other than Dexter, it's Sarah and my ex-mate Ryder. He told you. She looked at me and I slowly nodded. He did, and I am going to be there when the life leaves their eyes. I sat back. So anyway. Enough of the dramatic sad bull that we have all been through. As I said that, Cassie came running in with her stuff ready to go. She ran to us and sat by me. We all talked for a little, and when the guys came in to announce everything packed, Cassie shook her head. Nuh-uh. My stuff is still here. She pointed at the small bag of her things. I watched as my brother walked over to her and held out his hand, and she placed the bag in his. There, now we have everything. He smiled to her and she nodded. Okay. Let's get going, ladies. Everest said, and we all stood. We walked to the vehicles and made our way to the airport. The subs pulled up to the airport, but instead of dropping us off, we drove around to where our plane was. It was a large private jet in a almost golden cream color. It was absolutely beautiful. Inside was spacious and comfortable with top-of-the-line designs. We will be stopping by Josh and Claire's pack to do their official ceremony. Then the next day after the party we will be going home and handling business there. Everest spoke to me. Will this be an Alpha and Luna ceremony all in one? I looked up at him. He nodded his head. Yes, it will be. I felt the excitement for them both rise in me as the plane took off from the runway. Once up in the air, I watched Claire walk to the bathroom of the plane and my brother stood walking to us. Avalynn, can you please make sure that Claire finds the perfect dress? I want her to feel as amazing as she truly is. If it wasn't for her, I don't believe I would be the man I am today. I wouldn't have you in my life because I was a moron in the past." He sighed. "Of course I will personally make sure she is the best dressed wolf of the night. Josh, you have got to stop drowning yourself in the past. We are here now." I smiled at him. Everest's phone rang and he answered it. I could tell it was Ted on the other line. Apparently it was a call about Ryder. I couldn't hear the full conversation, but I felt how angry my mate was. I put my hand on his thigh to show my support. I glanced nervously at everyone, anxiously waiting to know what has happened. "He did what? Are you okay?" he boomed through the phone. Everest hung up his phone as he looked around the cabin of the plane. We were all sitting on the edge of our seats as he tried to calm his leakin within him. Something had happened with Ryder and I felt Charlotte stirring uncomfortably inside. She was feeding off his energy. It was an angry, almost deadly energy, and I wouldn't want to be at the other end of that wrath. He took a deep breath and spoke through gritted teeth. "He is gone. Not only is he gone, but someone slipped him a weapon and he killed the guards who were working the cell last night." His hands went to his face, rubbing away the frustration. "A weapon?" Jameson asked the question we were all wondering. "A weapon, one that kills instantly when in the right area. A gun with a few silver bullets to go along with it." He looked up at me and I moved my hand to his. He took it into his and I felt his tension lessened as the silent moment between everyone. No one really knew what to say. "We have a traitor in the walls of the castle." After a few moments of silence I spoke up. "Has Ted told anyone?" He looked up at me and shook his head. "No, he's investigating until we get home." I thought for a moment. "You should have your mom come out for the celebration, keep her safe." He smiled and nodded his head. "Excellent idea, thanks love." He called his mother and I looked at Claire, who seemed to now be a nervous ball of energy. "You okay? The Queen is coming to our ceremony." Her voice cracked. "She's pretty awesome." I smiled. "She is going to love you," Amber told Claire. I looked over at Cassie, who was sound asleep, and smiled to myself. Her tiny self made me think about my future with my mate. How someday, hopefully soon, we would have our own running around. I wondered though, how pregnancies worked for lichens. I know for wolves it was shorter than humans, and wolf pregnancies lasted for maybe 4 to 5 months at the max. That's if you were able to carry full term. Maybe it was about the same, maybe shorter. I guess I'll learn more about that later. I felt eyes on me and I looked around. My eyes landed on Everest and I smiled at him. He had a confused look on his face and I frowned slightly. "Avalynn, did you not hear me?" he said. "Oh." My cheeks flushed. "No, I didn't." "What did you say?" "You should buckle up. We will be landing soon." He responded with a smile as he paused for a brief moment. "What were you thinking about?" "Oh, nothing, just wondering how long a lichen stays pregnant for." I looked over at him and he smiled. 4 months max. About a month or so sooner than wolves. Most lichens carry to full term at 4 months. Amber answered me. I nodded my head as I clicked my seat belt together. "I was just wondering, thank you." Everyone was looking at me then with big smiles. No, no. I am not pregnant, yet. I was just looking at Cassie and was thinking about our future. I glanced over to my mate. When our eyes locked, I felt our shared bond blossom even more. The way he looked at me was as if I was his most precious gift he has ever received from this earth. As if my love was fragile and easily broken, to handle with such care. His eyes, when he looked into my soul, he saw the real me and I saw the adoration they held for me. The love flowed between us, different bonds of brilliant colors wrapping around us, bringing our hearts closer together. When our hands touched, it was like fireworks going off in celebration of us. When his lips and mine touched, the warmth of the sun shone within, spreading like wildfire through our bodies, bringing our love closer together. I realized in that very moment that I loved him. I loved him more than the air I breathed that keeps me alive. I would do anything for him and our entire territory to keep everyone safe. I would give him the family and surround him with love. I would love him until my last dying breath. Avalynn. My eyes snapped up to him as he softly spoke my name. I smiled just thinking about you. I replied, and Jameson cut in. Thinking about making some royal babies. Amber smacked his arm and scolded him. Would you stop teasing her? Maybe you should worry about your own baby-making abilities. She laughed. What? He looked at her. Are you pregnant? No, not yet. She smiled. We will be trying very soon, babe. She put her hand on his lap and Jameson had a big grin on his face. I hope they act like Amber AMD, not you. Maybe have your strength, ya big ol brute. Everest told him in a laugh, and Jameson resorted to mocking him, which got a bigger laugh out Everest and myself. Jameson has never been a graceful loser. He always seemed to have the smart jokes to tell people but never could take it like he could dish it. I looked out the window as the plane began its descent to the ground. It was dark and the lights were beautiful from the air. A couple little bumps during the landing and we were on the way to the plane reaching its destination. When it was stopped, vehicles were parked outside and being loaded with what little we carried. Everest and myself were the last ones remaining on the plane. He pulled me into his lap and his eyes searched my face. They stopped on my lips for a moment before looking back at me. You want children? I do. Don't you? I smiled. I never did until you. He smiled. His eyes drifting back to my mouth. My tongue darted out to my lips and wet them. Until me. Yes. Was all he said before his lips crashed with mine. The kiss sent a thrill through me as my adrenaline pumped in my veins. Our mouths worked against one another as his hands gripped my bottom, pulling me even closer. My mouth opened and he took that moment to seize the opportunity to invade mine with his tongue. A welcomed invasion as my tongue greeted his, and they danced with one another, pushing and entwining against one another's tongue. His hands moved my hips to grind against his and I let out a soft moan. I could feel him pressed against my thin shorts. His hands pushed and pulled at my hips as I broke the kiss to tilt my head back, feeling the ecstasy from the waves of pleasure. His mouth kissed down my throat, sucking and nipping softly. He let out a grumble, his chest vibrating deep with a sound. I looked back at him as he looked at me. I wanted him and I knew he could smell my scent dripping for him. Good thing what we are arriving in has a window that closes. We can take the long way to their pack. He asked me as his lips went back to assaulting my neck and collarbone and his hips pushed up against me more. Yes. He brought my face back to him and he kissed my mouth hard. Hold that thought. He winked and helped me up off his lap. I exited the plane first and he was right behind me. Your scent is an intoxicating drug. I need more. I am going to pleasure you nearly the whole entire way. He linked me so only I would know. It caught me by surprise and I stumbled as I walked to the large SUV-styled limousine. The door was held open for me and I got inside. Everest was talking to the man and he nodded his head and bowed. I watched as Everest got inside and sat in front and diagonal to me, then the driver shut his door. The driver clicked a button and the privacy slide went up and I was sure headphones went on him as well. I only smiled. Take them off, Everest said to me and I instantly complied. I stayed on his lap with my head on his shoulder, his arms tight around me. I will never get enough of you, he whispered into my ear. I know the feeling. I placed a kiss on his mark and smiled as he shuddered. I moved off him and he helped with my clothes. He put his own back on as I tried to make myself look presentable. Don't worry. I have you a change of outfit waiting at the human hotel outside your old pack. We will shower and change that way we are presentable. He smiled at me. Thank Goddess. How inappropriate would it be for the future queen to show up a mess and smelling of X? Charlotte hollered and laughed inside ha. Who cares what they think? A lot of them treated you like crap because you were different. Wait until they see how much you have changed. Leakin queen to be. She laughed again. I snickered and shrugged. In a way she was right. They did treat me like crap that they stepped in. Regardless though, I was in a higher position and will be in the highest position of our kind can be in, next to Everest that is. I would still treat them all with respect and treat them the way I want to be treated. Charlotte huffed in the background. I know she was a kick-ass fighter and warrior and a revenge seeker, but that's why we were paired together. We bring out the best in one another. She's my strength when I am weak and I am her reasoning when she is spitfire angry. We got out at the hotel and went in for showers. I had a change of brand new clothes and shoes waiting for me. I wore a swing tank that had a floral print with a 3/4 length navy blazer, skinny navy pants with nude heels. I also had some makeup and hair care products waiting. Everest had a navy suit with a soft peachy cream shirt under it and brown dress shoes. He looked absolutely delicious as I bit my lip watching him get ready in the mirror. Careful my love. We don't have any other clothes. He looked back at me with a smile. We walked out once ready and got back into the limo. It was cleaned and smelled wonderful. The guy only smiled at us as he bowed his head and I nodded to him thank you. He looked at me and his smile widened. We drove to my old pack as it wasn't too long of a drive. We were there within 15 minutes. Wolves surrounded the limo and escorted us to the pack house. When we arrived a crowd had already gathered, even with it being late. I looked outside the window and watched as many she-wolves trying their hardest to look in our direction as we slowly approached the house. That was when I was suddenly bombarded with their thoughts. Oh, he is here. I hope he is alone. I will be his. I hope he will take me with him. He wolfless can't be his mate. She has nothing, she is nothing. It is all rumors. All rumors. We would be so cute together. The king is so handsome. I put my hand to my head as it broke through. The jealously rage of Charlotte was pushing through and I couldn't wait to get out of the limo. To see the look on some of their faces. Everest's hand landed on mine and it was an instant calming effect. Everything okay, my love? The thoughts of those outside kept coming and I groaned as I instinctively pulled my hand away from Everest and raised them both. I slung them away from me and the thoughts were gone. Everest looked at me oddly. I can hear their thoughts. They were overwhelming. I sighed as the limousine stopped and parked. Make him get out first. Charlotte wanted them to get their hopes up and honestly I did too. Hey babe, you should get out first. He nodded his head. I planned on it that way. I can help you out myself. He smiled at me and leaned in for a quick kiss and the door opened up. I watched as Everest exited the limo. The thoughts came flooding me instantly. He's alone. She was nothing but a easy lay in a warm hole. Oh, I wish I was so lucky to be blessed by the goddess as Avalynn was. The last comment made me smile. Someone in support of us, and not having something hateful to say. I waved my hands as I did earlier and it pushed the thoughts aside. He turned and his hand was in the door, waiting for me. I took it and let him help me out of the limousine. The eyes were on me and as I quickly glanced around, I could see shock and awe as everyone looked on. I kept my head high and put on a brave and tough face, not worrying about what they're saying. We were reunited with my brother and Claire as we walked to the pack house. Everyone seemed to move out of our way quickly and whispers were overheard as we passed pack members. I let a small smile show as I remembered the last time I was here. I shifted and showed everyone our true self. We went up to the conference room where Jameson and Amber joined us shortly after we got there. I tried to hide a yawn. It has been a very long day. Very long few weeks for that matter. Everest sat in front of the previous alpha, Michael. Let us just cut to the chase, Michael. Everest began and I could tell he was holding back his anger, though you could see the storm brewing in his eyes. Where is your son, Ryder? What do you mean? He's not here. I don't know where he is. He seemed confused as I leaned closer, trying to open his mind and search his thoughts. I had no clue what I was doing. I assume by the way Amber was looking at me, I looked constipated. I picked at him until I felt a surge of energy push through a seemingly invisible barrier. What did Ryder do this time? Does the king think I helped my traitor of a son? I am innocent. I would never. My son is. Well, my son is a monster that I don't even recognize anymore. I can't risk everything because he went down the wrong path. That look in the king's eyes. Oh goddess, please, please let him believe me. I don't know anything. I sat forward more and placed a hand on my mate's arm. Would you mind, Michael, if you could leave us for a moment? I smiled at him. Of course, take all the time you need. He bowed and practically ran from the room. What the? Why? He was going to crack. Jameson frowned. No, he was innocent. I stated flatly. He is. Everest looked at me with interest. You heard him. Not only that, but I figured how to get inside his mind and maneuver through his thoughts. He didn't help his son. He's innocent and terrified you're going to kill him anyway to get even. Wow! Claire smiled at me. How did you do that? I don't know how, I just did it, and it was like an invisible wall collapsed and I felt everything he did and could see, well, hear his thoughts. I shrugged. Well, I thought you were going to throw up or something worse. Amber let out a laugh and I laughed with her. I was wondering why you were scooting away. Jameson pouted. Can't even warn her mate of something about to happen. I was trying to hide behind you. You know, use you as a shield. She grinned. Hey! That's not cool. Gross, babe. Jameson whined and laughed. We all laughed together and I stood walking to the door and opened it to Michael, who was leaning against the wall. Come on in, Michael. Everything is going to be okay. You will be just fine. I reassured him as he followed behind me, moving to his seat. He sat down and I walked over next to Everest and sat down next to him. I sighed and looked at my old alpha. He was worried and I felt that his soul was breaking. Michael. I spoke his name softly and his head lifted up to look at Everest and myself. Your son has shot the guards who were watching him, after a shift change, with a few silver bullets. Someone slipped him a gun and we just needed to make sure that you were not involved in the matter. We know that you aren't, and the obvious person who would help him would be Dexter and his men. I gave him a supportive smile and nodded in his direction. He frowned and I could feel his roller coaster of emotion flowing through him. He was worried and scared for his son, rightfully so, because when we find him he will have a quick trial and be sentenced to death, more than likely. How do you know I am innocent? He looked around at everyone in the room. I can feel your emotions and read your thoughts. I can network through them and can tell if you are lying or telling the truth. My eyes were locked on him the entire time, never straying away from him. I gave him my full attention. You're serious? He stuttered through his words, obviously nervous. I am very serious. My head tilted aside and I grinned, getting his thoughts drifting through my mind. Before you say anything, the number you're going to choose is 23 when you ask me what number you're thinking of out of 1 through 10. I laughed some at his open-mouthed, shocked expression. Wow! So you're gifted then? He asked me. I suppose I am. I looked around the room. Is that rare? I asked whoever would answer me. Very rare. The moon goddess only bless pure hearts with gifts. Everest said. Oh. Well, anyway, let us discuss the ceremony, and security issues. Everest nodded. It needs to happen in 2 days. That way we have a full day to get it together and get what we need, and we can leave to go back home and handle business. Josh nodded. I would like the entire pack to know why Ryder will not be Alpha. He looked at Michael and Everest. I think it would be very beneficial for them to understand, and that way no one will cater to him. Some still will, like his close friends, but it will be less if we let the pack understand. That's a good idea. I will tell them of the horrific crimes he has committed. Michael said and sighed. It won't be easy to tell them, but I will do it. It, I believe, would probably mean more coming from me. Absolutely. Then I will go over approval of this Alpha ceremony and all of the crossing the T's and dotting of the I's. Everest said. Good, that was easy and quick. I smiled at the 3 of them. Now about security, I believe we need to interrogate every warrior that is on duty the night Ryder escaped and murdered the guards. Let me be in the room when it happens. I won't say anything, just sitting there going through their minds." Everest nodded. "I definitely think that is a good idea. Jameson, will you be in the room as well? I think both of our presence in the room could help intimidate the weaker of our warriors. If they don't have anything to hide, it will be easy for Avalynn to figure out quickly who deceitful and being truthful." Jameson nodded his head. "Of course." A knock sounded on the door and we all looked over to it. Everest called to whoever was on the other side, "Come in. King Everest, your mother has just crossed into the pack territory." She was a thin young girl, maybe 16 and in a uniform, a young Omega. She curtsied and left the room. We all stood and made our way outside to greet her. She arrived and she looked like she had been sick. "Losing your mate does take a toll on your body," I remembered. On another note, she smiled at us all. She walked straight for me and opened her arms and embraced me. She had tears in her eyes as she softly kissed my cheek. "You are so strong. Always remember that. I am so happy you are alive and safe." Her hands were on my cheeks. I looked up at my mate's mother and I could see how tired and stressed she really was. "You are here and are safe with us at your side," I stated, and she smiled at me. She let me go and moved to Everest, and I turned to the Omegas. "If you would, please take her things to her suite and run a hot shower for her along with a few drinks brought up to her room." I looked over to April and she smiled at me and I returned the smile to her. Everest spoke to her mother, "Please relax and rest easy." He kissed her cheek and she walked away with Ember. We walked back to the conference room. As we approached, I smelled a foul stench and Everest's arm pulled up to stop me. We listened closely as shuffling of papers could be heard. I felt Everest's uneasy feeling and pushed past it. "It's a ruse. He is looking for information on what our plans are." I linked Everest. He shifted quietly and his Lecan gazed at me. He stood tall and I smiled at him. I felt Charlotte push to look at her mate and I gave her control and let us shift. They nuzzled one another before busting into the room together. They were a force to be reckoned with as Charlotte blocked the exit and Connor dove across the table, snapping his jaw on the rouge. He stilled and didn't move, knowing it would be death if he did. He only whimpered from the pain and I shifted back to my human form. "When he lets go, shift into your human form." He was looking at me. He closed his eyes and nodded his head. Everest let go and the wolf immediately shifted to his human form. I frowned and looked at him. I knew him. He was from this pack and we were the same age. He was one of the men who tormented me. I'm school and Ryder's friend. It made sense he was working for him now. "Avalynn." He looked at me confused and my eyes narrowed as he continued to talk. "You're a Lecan." "Yes, Alex, I am." "Why are you a rouge?" I questioned as Everest shifted back. "You should ask Alpha Michael. He threw me out when he found out I helped Ryder after the attacks on the kingdom. I didn't know he was involved. I was stupid in trusting in him." He looked at Everest and sighed. "Stupidity clearly doesn't mean I am free to break the laws. I am very sorry." Everest walked over and linked me. "Go find a guard to take him to the cells." I left and found a few guards and they took him. As they left I commanded, "Make sure he is fed, has a bath and gets clean clothes." They nodded and left with him. I turned to Everest and frowned. I am not sure how much information he has. I want to lend Jim a kind gesture and maybe he will tell us more. Smart? We will see if it works. How do you know him? He asked. Well, he bullied me in school, probably regrets that decision now. But we need to handle him first thing in the morning. But for now, let's clean this mess up and get some much-deserved rest. Sounds good to me, love. He helped gather papers and handed them over to me. I straightened them and held them close to my body. We walked together to our room, hand in hand together. We kicked our shoes off and both collapsed on the bed. I laid there and sighed as my mind slowly drifted to sleep as Everest held me close to his chest. I dreamed of a fight that was to come, a path that could be the direct result of our actions we were having to take. Blood was absolutely everywhere and seemed to cling to everything. My lichen's fur was drenched in blood, but I was unharmed. I wasn't in any pain, but I was alone. I looked around and bodies were ripped, shredded, and just laying all around me. Where was Everest? I searched and walked through the gory field. The stench of death was already beginning to thicken as time seemed to tick away. I screamed his name and felt nothing, heard nothing in his response. Panic quickly rose in me as realization was setting in that something was seriously wrong. Avalynn. A voice sounded so distant but still very calming and soothing. The panic I felt seemed to be drifting away. I turned to look all around to see where the voice was coming from. Avalynn. The deep voice called me again and suddenly it felt as if I was being ripped from this world and my eyes fluttered open. Good morning, my love. He was looking at me a bit worried. Are you okay? Did you have a bad dream? He was laying next to me, his face was so close, he was so close and I could feel his warmth from his body. His hand reached up and wiped a tear from my face. I frowned as I realized I had been asleep, yet it felt so very real. My hand went up and I wiped another off my cheek. I pulled it away and looked at the moisture and back to Everest. It was a bad dream, horrible really. I was at a battleground where war had been shed. Blood, lots and lots of it, everywhere and on everything. I was drenched in it, as it coated every bit of my lichen. So many lives lost, I couldn't find you anywhere. My eyes began watering again and he pulled me closer to him. SHHH. I will be by your side, always. He kissed the top of my head. Why don't you take a hot shower and get ready? You might begin to feel better. When you finish getting ready, come on down and eat breakfast before you ladies leave for shopping. He placed kisses all over my face and I smiled. He got up and I noticed he was dressed already. I must have been exhausted to not have felt him get out of bed or heard him getting ready. I got up and stretched my muscles. A few popping sounds could be heard as my joints and bones moved. I watched Everest walk into the connected bathroom. I walked over to the coffee bar and poured a cup of coffee, fixing it the way I loved it, a generous amount of cream and a heaping amount of sugar. I heard the water running and I smiled as I took a sip of the hot beverage. He was so good to me. I watched steam roll out of the bathroom as Everest opened the door. I bit my bottom lip as it seemed to move in slow motion. He was dressed in black dress pants and a soft blue button-down. It was a snug fit and he looked incredibly delicious. He caught me watching him and gave me a wink. I grinned and took another sip of the coffee, sitting it on the table and walking across the room. He kissed my forehead. Enjoy your hot shower. I will see you in a bit. See you in a bit. I turned and closed the bathroom door. I enjoyed the shower and washed every bit of my body clean. I got out and dried myself off. I fixed my hair and applied light makeup. I walked out in my towel and saw clothes neatly folded on the bed and smiled. Hey girl, here are a few outfits for you. I had someone go pick them up as soon as we got in yesterday. See you soon. Claire. I smiled and looked through the clothes. I picked out a black skirt with a soft green shirt. I put on the stockings and my heels and walked out of the door. When I opened the door, a man and woman who were wolves were standing outside my door guarding it. I didn't even know they were there, to be honest, and they kind of startled me. They gave me their neck and I smiled at them. Good morning to you both. Good morning. They both responded in unison. They followed me down the stairs as I walked towards where everyone was, following the smell of breakfast. When I walked into the banquet hall, I saw Everest talking to Josh, Michael, and Jameson. April was sitting and chatting with Claire and Amber. I approached and everyone smiled and I made myself a plate of food. We all ate and chatted about today's events. April decided to tag along and help Claire with her dress for the ceremony. I studied April, who seemed to make a pretty good bounce back. She locked eyes with me and I heard her thoughts. Everest told me what you can do. I am fine, you can stop worrying. Last night was the first time I have really slept since you were gone. Thank you for making sure the room was comfortable and accommodating. Knowing you are both safe has eased my worries. She smiled at me and I smiled back and nodded to her. Soon we were all off shopping the day away. We decided to pick out Claire's dress first and she settled with a beautiful tight black dress that had a sparkle nude swirl going along her body. She went with red heels to go with it and she looked absolutely stunning. Next we all picked out our dress and I remembered Everest told me to pick something out that was elegant and fit for a queen. I looked at the dresses as I sat in the dressing room. I found emerald green dress that hugged every curve of my body. It had a long slit that hit right below my hip and showed off my right leg. It had a deep plunge in the front that went down to just above my navel. The sheer material in between the fabric had crystals scattered along it. The back dipped midway just under my shoulder blades, exposing half of my back. I picked out matching heels that had crystals along the sides and down the entire heel of the shoe. This dress made me feel beautiful, strong, elegant, and powerful. I knew it was the one and didn't need to try on any others. I sent it to be properly hung and steamed to knock out any wrinkles. We all found the perfect dresses and paid for out items. We met the guys for a late lunch and discussed the details of the ceremony. We went home and began setting up for the following night, giving direction to the staff on hand. When it was all said and done, everything was perfect. Would you mind coming to the cells? Everest link cut through. I agreed and walked down to the basement cells. I walked into a holding room and saw Jameson sitting across the table from Alex. What's going on? I asked. He is spilling his guts. He was working with Dexter, but did not know he was dangerous. Ryder talked him into it, right after my father was killed. He helped him hide out but he never told him why. When Alex left to come back, Michael could smell his son's scent on him and casted him out as a traitor and a rouge. He sighed and rubbed his face with his hands. I can't tell if he is being truthful or lying. If he is telling the truth he should have some punishment, but he shouldn't be casted out as a rouge. No, I don't think he should be a rouge if he is being truthful. He should, however, be made to do community service in the pack for a good amount of time. I agreed with him, if he was telling the truth, and he seemed to be doing so, he should do community service and his movements be watched for however long my brother and mate sees fit. I frowned and looked around. Where is my brother anyway? Him and Michael are getting their speeches together. They should be here any moment though. He looked down at me. How did today go? Did you find your perfect dress for the event? He took me by the hand and we walked out of the cells. I did. Would you like to see it? I smiled. I am sure that it being on the hanger doesn't do it justice as to what it looks like on you. I can wait until tomorrow evening. Okay, that is fine. Dinner should be ready soon. We were at the top of the steps as he kissed me. My brother approached and him and Everest went back down to the cells to finish handling their business. I thought he wanted my help, but maybe not. He just seemed to miss me and wanted to lay out what he thought the most suitable actions were. I walked back out to join the girls in helping with decorations and they made a lot of progress. They set up the tables and chairs and were now putting the tablecloths down, which only had a few more to go. The stage was set up and the only thing really missing was flowers, plates, and silverware. I walked and stood by Claire nervous. I don't know if I am more nervous to be there, Luna, or more nervous that people are going to be depending on me now. She slightly shrugged her shoulders. You're going to make a fantastic Luna. Just think all those times you helped me, protected me, and saved me from the tormentors and bullies. You were made for this position. Your love and your compassion is what sets you apart from everyone else. I told her. You really think so? I just don't want to mess everything up. Life is full of decisions and obstacles. We learn to do better and be better as we go along. You may make a few mistakes along the way, but just know that those mistakes are how we grow and learn. If we didn't make them, we couldn't be better for the future. I gave her a small hug and looked at her. You are going to be fair, respectable, and the most understanding. You don't have cruel intentions to be harmful or hurtful. That is why the moon goddess paired you with my brother. You helped him see his wrong and now look at you both. She nodded her head. You're right, Avalynn. When did you get so wise and all-knowing? She laughed. I have no idea, honestly. I just see the world differently now that I have Everest in my life. I paused and smiled to myself. After dinner though, you should get you some much-needed rest. You and my brother. We can handle all of this. I waved to the entire area. Are you sure? You don't mind? She looked around the room. I am 1,000,000% certain. I was now talking to everyone. Let us all take a break and prepare for dinner. We all left and got ready for dinner. We all met at a steakhouse in the Pack territory. We ate and chatted throughout dinner, sharing excitement about tomorrow's event. When we came back, Josh and Claire went off to bed while we helped finish setting everything up. I wanted to make sure that everything was absolutely perfect for my brother and Claire. They deserved the best and I would see to it that they got the best. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.